Hello everybody, I'm Joe and this is the GM Toolbox. I have been on hiatus from this channel for quite some time, but I've been doing a lot of thinking about how I want to take this channel and what direction I want to go in, and I have some great ideas. So I decided it's time to come back. And today I wanted to jump into Tales of the Valiant from Kobold Press, as right now Kobold Con, their very first own online convention, is going on, and I thought it'd be fun to look at Tales of the Valiant since it just dropped officially this week. So let's get into it. Welcome back to the GM Toolbox, everybody. As I said in my intro, it has been some time, and I have done a lot of thinking about what do I really want to do with this channel. And I do like doing my product reviews, but that's not all I want to do. I'm a big fan of Foundry VTT. I do a lot of conversions for publishers like Kobold Press and AAW Games for Foundry products. And I use Foundry for the good majority of my games, even my at-home, at-table games. So I thought it'd be fun to maybe start digging into some of that a little bit as well. But today, I wanted to talk about Tales of the Valiant from Kobold Press. Like I said, the convention, their Kobold Con, is going on this weekend. It started yesterday and is going on today and tomorrow. So I thought it'd be fun to dig in. Let's look at Tales of the Valiant. Let's talk about what's in there, what makes it different from 5th edition, things I like about it, things I don't like about it. And why don't we just jump right in? Here we are. This is the Tales of the Valiant Player's Guide. Now, if you backed Kickstarter or pre-ordered, you should have received the PDFs for both your Player's Guide and your Monster Vaults this week. So both books are out. They also released the Black Flag role-playing rule system. This is basically their version of an SRD. So these are the basic rules that you or anybody, any publisher, anybody can use to create and sell stuff for this system, where Tales of the Valiant is their system that runs off of the Black Flag role-playing system. So they have that. They also released, which I really love, and we'll get into this a little later, the Tales of the Valiant conversion guide. So if you are somebody who has a lot of 5th edition stuff and you want to convert that to Tales of the Valiant, this guide that we'll take a glance at here shortly will help you do just that. Let's start off with the Player's Guide because there's a lot of great stuff in here. If we take a look, I'm going to go over here to the table of contents for you and just kind of pull this over so you can see it a little bit better. So there's a lot of stuff in here. So character creation, obviously, rules. Let me see here. We can break. So we have character classes. We have Lineage and Heritage, which we will talk about. Obviously, the equipment, services, vehicles, things like that. Playing the game itself, the rules of the game, and spellcasting. So let's talk a little bit about what is Tales of the Valiant and what makes it different from 5th edition and what makes it the same as 5th edition, because it is in a lot of ways just 5th edition tuned up, turned up, different. Tales of the Valiant was actually, a lot of people think this was actually started in response to the OGL, but my understanding, at least from what I've heard, is that it was actually started quite a bit before the OGL thing happened. Maybe that's because Kobold Press had some foreknowledge that the OGL thing was coming, or maybe it was just something they wanted to do anyways. But I see Tales of the Valiant as kind of what Pathfinder 1st edition was to 3.5. It was a continuation of that rule set. Now, 1D&D is coming out, or D&D 5.5, or whatever the heck we want to call it. There were things about it that I personally didn't like. Now, going through maybe the last 3 playtest packets, there are things in there I very much liked. Some of the improvements to the classes were very good. Some things I didn't love. But overall, I really like things like how Wizard of the Coast improved healing spells. I really like that they upped the healing for things like Cure Wounds and Healing Word and stuff like that. I thought that was a great thing, and I'm already using that in my 5th edition games. Some of the class changes were pretty good. I thought they did a pretty decent job updating Ranger. There's definitely some good things there that I'm seeing in 1D&D. Well, then I got a hold of, because I had the alpha, I had the playtest packets, stuff like that for Tales of the Valiant, but I got a hold, finally, of the full PDF here, and I start going through, and I'm looking at things like character classes, and I just like what they're doing here better. Now, what's better about it? This is going to be a very, I think, my personal opinion on it, and it might be something that makes you go, I don't like that at all, but I feel like there is more power here. Characters are going to be more powerful. That's something I like in my games. What I was finding recently, because I started playing a 5th edition D&D game, and with my group I've been playing with for years, and I had run them through Tome of Annihilation previously, and we started a whole new campaign in Midgard, in Kobold Press's Midgard setting, and I allowed them to use Midgard subclasses if they wanted. Not everybody is, some of them are. But what I found overall is my players seem scared of what I'm putting in front of them. And I think that is partially my fault for throwing Tome of Annihilation at a group of players that were essentially new to D&D. I think I kind of broke them. But they were very weary of almost everything. They're scared they're going to die. So, I mean, first off, I talked to my players. I said, listen, I'm not going to throw anything at you that you guys can't handle. And if I do, you'll be very aware of the fact that you should turn and run. I'm not saying that every fight's going to be easily winnable. You might have to strategize, and if you just rush into it, you might die. But everything is, is possible to win. So I had that talk with them, but I also was like, you know what? I'm just going to make you guys more powerful. I want them to feel cool. I want them to feel like heroes. Like they are super awesome. Even at these lower levels, I want them to feel really powerful. And that will also, allow me as a DM to throw harder challenges at them. I like using Tome of Beasts and Creature Codex and some of the monsters that Kobold Press has put out that are stronger. And I think that giving them a little bit more power will make them feel cool. And that's what I've been thinking a lot about that. I'm like, I just really want my players to feel cool. And I started going through these classes. And for instance, let me just grab, I'm a big fan of the Cleric. So let's close this so you guys can see this a little better. I'll even zoom in here a little. So, the Cleric, for instance, they did a thing where, the Clerics, just like in 1D&D, are going to get their subclass at level 3 now. That's fine with me. But, they did things like this manifestation of faith, where now you basically can have heavy armor proficiency as part of your core class, or you can be more of a magic casting cleric and do additional cantrips. So they pulled that heavy armor proficiency out of the subclasses, and now any cleric has the ability to get that. They also took Channel Divinity and they made it better. Now Channel Divinity is called, instead of Turn Undead, they have Turn the Profane, and it affects undead and fiends. I love this. I love this a lot. And I believe, if I recall, you get more uses of Channel Divinity. So I like that too, because I don't want them sitting there holding it for just in case and then never using it. So you can see here, cantrips, known spellcasting, things like that, proficiency bonus in their tables. There's the spell levels. Spell levels are now called circles, so that you don't confuse your character level with the spell level. Like a 5th level character doesn't cast 5th level spells, right? They cast 3rd level spells, or in this case, 3rd circle spells. So they did that to clarify it. My brain's having a little trouble adjusting to that, to be quite honest, but maybe I'll get used to it, or maybe I'll just ignore it and keep calling them levels. I don't care. So you can see here that Channel Divinity, just like in regular D&D, gets 1 per rest at 2nd level. However, Channel Divinity's ability now is called Turn the Profane rather than Turn Undead. So this allows it to turn both undead and fiends, which is really cool. So we get 1 per rest at 2nd level. We still get 2 per rest at 6th level, but now we get 3 per rest at 13th level and 4 per rest at 18th level. So we get a whole extra Channel Divinity, which I really like, because it just lets you use it a little bit more at those higher levels. You should have a little bit more of it. So I do like that they gave us extra uses. Now I think 1D&D may have upped it to 2 per rest at 2nd level, which is also really good, because that allowed us to do more early on. But this whole Turn the Profane is a very, very cool ability. I like it a lot, and I definitely think it's a big improvement. So Channel Divinity definitely sees an overall bump here in TOV, in my opinion. One thing you'll see here is you get stuff almost at every level. At every level, there's something. You don't see any levels with dash. You don't get anything other than maybe a new spell level or a new spell slot, right? You get something at every level. So I do like that a lot. You also, at 10th level, every class gets a heroic boon. So a heroic boon is a great it's a class choice, and I like choices because it just is fun. So at 10th level, you can get Gift of Concentration. You are now immune to disease, poison damage, and the poison condition. If you die, your body is instantly preserved as per the Gentle Repose spell for up to a year and a day. Or you can choose the Gift of Wrath, which lets you choose either the Radiant or Necrotic damage type. You are now resistant to damage of that chosen type. In addition, when you cast a spell that deals damage of any type, you can choose for it to deal Radiant or Necrotic damage instead. You choose which in casting. So that's kind of fun. And there's a lot of Radiant or Necrotic choices in this class. They also redid the Life Domain Cleric, which I won't go into too much detail, but overall, I like it better. It's not a huge shift from 5th edition. It's a little shift, but it's a good shift. Divine Intervention, I really like the way they did this because now it's a D20 roll. And basically, if the result is 19 or lower, your request fails, and your deity doesn't intervene. If the result is 20 or higher, your deity intervenes. But basically, you add your proficiency bonus to the roll. So your ability to get Divine Intervention scales with level and has a higher chance of working. So it's not 10% chance throughout the entire game until you hit level 20 anymore. Now it's at 9th level you already have, what is that going to be? I think you're only going to need a 14 or 15. No, 16, I think. 16 or better on your die roll. So you're already having a 20% chance of success right there, and then it's just going to get better with level as your proficiency bonus goes up. So I like that. It makes that ability feel useful and not just like a long shot, So that's kind of the idea here, is that I feel like the classes overall just have a little bit more power, and I like that. Now, you might not like that. You might feel like 5th edition's already too powerful, blah, blah, blah. Personally, one thing I like about 5th edition is that it's very easy to scale encounters. I can just throw harder stuff at them. But having abilities and having power, I feel like makes the players feel good. So that's something I definitely like here. Now, another big change is going to be in race. You notice race isn't listed here. Instead, what we have here is Lineage and Heritage. So basically, Lineage is your birth. I am born an elf, therefore I have dark vision, I have a certain movement speed, I'm going to live for a certain amount of time, right? Age, size, speed, certain traits are going to be part of your lineage. Your heritage is more how you were raised. So if I was an elf, but I was raised by, let's say, Fireforged dwarves, right? I'm not going to have elven weapon training. I'm going to have something different. I'm going to have, forgecraft and heat resilience, and I'm going to know different languages. So these are learned traits is what heritage is. So this allows you to mix and match different lineage and heritages to make very unique builds for characters. This makes tons of sense. This is one of my favorite changes in TOV. I love this change. It's just smart. A couple other things that I really liked. They have a whole section here on downtime. Things that you do in between adventures, if I can find it here. Oh, they also have a lot, by the way, I'll just throw this out here. They have a great section on exploration encounters and social encounters. This is things that I think 5th edition kind of went too loosely over, because there's the 3 pillars, and I don't feel like they did a whole lot on those other 2 pillars. So this gives you a little bit more information on how to actually use those 2 pillars. Now, between adventures, this is the section I really like. Great stuff in here. Even if you're not going to play Tales of the Valiant, I suggest looking through this section and stealing this for your 5th edition games, because it's great. So they talk about what to do. Now they have carousing. This is essentially going and saying like, I'm going to go hang out with people in between sessions during downtime and maybe make some contacts and things like that. And depending on if you're going to hang out with a lower class, middle class, or upper class, there is a different cost. You will, basically make a PC makes a charisma persuasion check or similar relevant ability check to determine if they made any contacts or gained favors as shown in the carousing resolution table. So you basically roll in this table and something will come out of it. Very quick thing to do at the beginning of the session. What did you do during downtime? I decided to go and carouse in the lower class, try to make some contacts, things like that. Okay, mark off 10 gold, roll a d20. Here's what the result was. Very simple, very easy, but it gives you some cool stuff. And it says, using contacts and favors. So it has a little section on what does this mean. They have a small section on crafting here, which is great. They have a section here on researching, which is great. One of my favorite things is the section on training on new skills and languages. This was something I homebrewed in my own game. I have this 3 or 4 page PDF that I wrote. This is so similar to what I wrote, but they made it small, put it into a couple of paragraphs, much simpler and more elegant. And I'm probably gonna end up using this instead of my own homebrew because it's just easier. They have things like working, if you have like a job or something like that, stuff you can do in downtime. These were great things. These also complement a lot of the downtime activities in their Toma Heroes book that they released, a year or 2 ago, 2 years ago. So very, very cool section that I did like a lot. Other things that changed was a little bit, I did talk about, spellcasting. Spellcasting is pretty much the same, but spells have turned to circles. And much like the new version of D&D, they have basically just these 4 4 spell lists that are essentially arcane, divine, primordial, and weird. So makes it a lot less confusing with spell lists per class. They also have rituals. They've taken rituals out, and you'll notice even when we looked, if I go back up to our cleric or any of the caster classes, you'll see rituals known. So rituals become a separate thing that and they don't count toward your spells known, or things like that. So there are these ritual spell lists that you can pick from and learn rituals. So it gives you just a little bit more flavor. You don't have to worry about, do I want to take comprehend language or magic missile? Now I can just take both because I've learned a ritual and I can have a spell. So I like how they pulled those out, made them separate things that you can do, and it just gives you a little bit more flavor, a little bit more power, a little bit more versatility. These are all things I really liked. What do I not like? Well, it's tough to say because one of the things I didn't like was that they did change it so that every class gets their subclass at 3rd level. So things like wizards and clerics, sorcerers, I believe, my 5th edition material that I already have, even from Kobold Press, I'm like, well, now I can't really use that in here. That was my mentality. Well, last year at Gen Con, I said, I was sitting in a panel that they were doing on TOV, and I asked, are you going to do a conversion guide? And they said, yeah. Well, sure enough, they did a conversion guide. So one of my biggest, I would say, criticisms of TOV, they kind of handled already. So I love this conversion guide. I looked through it yesterday because I was very curious. So let's say, they first off tell you how to take a race and break it into Lineage and Heritage. So cool, not hard to do. Same with backgrounds and things like that. But let's go into classes. So we've been talking Cleric. Let's look. In 5e, Cleric subclasses have a feature at 1st, 2nd, 6th, 8th, and 17th level. When converting a 5e Cleric to subclasses to TOV, adjust the 1st and 2nd level features to 3rd level, and adjust the 6th and 17th level features to 7th and 15th levels respectively. Then create a new feature for 11th level that replaces the 8th level feature. This new 11th level feature should expand or improve on the 3rd level channel divinity feature, typically making it deal more damage, heal more hit points, affect more targets, or similar. If you are at a loss for a new feature, pick up or adjust one of the 11th level features from the TOV Cleric subclasses. TOV Clerics use divine spellcasting when choosing their spells. They aren't restricted to class-specific spell lists. This is great. I mean, this right here tells us exactly how to take any one of the core 5th edition subclasses or third-party subclasses or something like that and convert to TOV very, very easily. Love it. So one of my biggest, I guess, criticisms, has been answered here. So this conversion guide is free. You can go on Kobold Press's site, download it right now. They also have the Black Flag role-playing core rules. This is what you would use if you wanted to create your own content and sell it. This is a free document you can download from them as well. And it's, like I said, it's 138 pages. It is on the Orc license, I think it was the Orc license. Orc license right here. So, I mean, just like SRD material that Wizards of the Coast has had, you have this right here. It also attributes the SRD 5.1, which is in Creative Commons, which you can see right here. So all you have to do is reference this, and this references the Creative Commons. So you only have to reference the one license when you create content. So very, very simple. So overall, I'm liking TOV. Now, let's talk about the Monster Vault, because this is great. This is their version of the Monster Manual. So what we're going to find in here is a lot of the monsters that we would find in the Monster Manual, just with a TOV spin. And we can see here's a skeleton. Let me zoom in a little extra for you guys so you can see it well. So these skeleton stat blocks still a CR 1/4. We can see the armor class, hit points. I think I have to pull up the standard skeleton. I say everybody knows the skeleton, and I can't think of what the stat block looks like in my head right now. But the big thing here, you notice we don't put stats here. We just put what their plus and minuses are, because that's all we really need for a monster. So, this is either a 10 or 11. This is a 12 or 13, 6 or 7. Very, very easy to know, right? But it doesn't matter, because all we care about is the plus and minus. But what you'll notice here, we have our short sword, we have our short bow, but now we have a reaction. They've given it some action economy. I think they gave it more hit points too, I think. But they gave it an action economy. So you'll see this a lot in a lot of monsters, is that they now have bonus actions or reactions or both that they didn't have in the monster manual. So the monsters in here have been Kobold pressed into better versions. Like everybody's like, oh, I love Tome of Beasts because it's just a better book. The monsters hit harder, they're tougher, they're more accurate to what their CR should be. And they've taken all the classic, SRD monsters and have done that here. So I'm sure we're going to see some expansions on other monsters and things like that over time. They were kind of joking a lot about that, because Kobold Press already has over 1,600 monsters with their 4 big monster books. Now they have this as well. So I can't remember how many monsters are in here, but we're sitting in the neighborhood of 1,800 monsters, 1,900 monsters. It's got to be somewhere in that neighborhood at this point. Probably 2,000 if you include all the other little books that have monsters in it from Kobold Press. We have a lot of monsters to choose from. Very easy to take literally you can grab your monster manual and pull the beholder out if you want, since beholders are copyrighted, and throw it at a group of TOV players. It works, because in essence, TOV is just 5th edition. It's their version of 5th edition. And we have here in the beginning, talks about using this book, talks about what's in the book. They did take Doom. If you remember talking about Doom early on in TOV, it is a point system for GMs to use on certain monster fights. So they took Doom and they made it optional rather than something that's part of monster stat blocks. But they do talk about like their tactics. What is a controller, a leader, a soldier, waves of monsters. If you are a fan of MCDM and he did the Flea Mortals, he talked a lot about this too in that book, and that's a great book that I'm sure I'll talk about at some point. They took some of that similar design and put it right into this book. Here's the optional Doom. It talks about how many Doom points you should have for an encounter, how to modify monsters. It's a great book. They also have some tables about what type of monsters would be with other types of monsters and by terrain, things like that, what you might find. So very, very useful monster book. It's more than just stat blocks. It definitely has some great information here for creating encounters and things like that. So overall, I would call this a definite win on this book. To jump back over to the player's guide, because there were a few other things I wanted to touch on. Just some cool stuff that they did under equipment, for instance. If we go under armor, you can see here they show pictures of all the armor. They've also given the armor, and I've seen this in other, like maybe advanced 5th edition from, I can't remember the publisher that made it, but they gave the armor some properties that maybe make it a little bit, more flavorful. They did talk about materials, things like adamantite and mithril and things like that, if you wanted to adjust armor with those things. Weapons as well. We got all the pictures of the weapons. I love this. This is not in the player's handbook. You see some pictures, but you don't see every picture of every weapon. This is something I think they did a lot of back in like AD&D, and it's back. Love this right here. Great job on this. Overall, I find the books useful. I would say if you just aren't sure about, do I want to play TOV or play 5th edition, I think it's very easy to take parts of TOV that you like and use it in 5th edition. The luck system, I think, is one of the most successful things TOV did, which is anytime you roll a d20 and fail, doesn't mean that one, but if you attack and miss, if you roll a saving throw and fail, if you roll an ability check and fail, get a luck point. You can have up to 5 luck points, and you can spend 1 luck point to add +1 to any d20 roll. You can spend 3 luck points to re-roll a d20 roll. If you have 5 and you gain a 6th, you roll a d4, whatever you roll is what your new luck total is. So this encourages players to constantly be using their luck and not just hoarding it. But it is a fail forward system. I like it a lot better than Inspiration. I have been using it in my 5th edition games. It works very, very well. I just, I play a lot in Foundry, so I just track it in a resource box. But Tales of the Valiant will be released on Foundry. It's already on Shard. Yeah, it's a great little resource system that I highly, highly recommend. Overall, what do I rate Tales of the Valiant? I would say I'd give Tales of the Valiant, I would say maybe like an 8 out of 10 overall. There are some things that I would have liked maybe to see a little different. But at the same time, I think that they're going to be, adding more and improving. For instance, one thing that you'll see on character classes, if we go back to our Cleric, since that was the one we picked out today. By the way, there is a new class called the Mechanist, which is kind of their take on the Artificer. I like the Mechanist better. I know a lot of people do. I know some people don't. There was a guy in the Kobold Press channel yesterday who was saying he absolutely hated it. That's fine. I like the idea behind the Mechanist. We should probably do a whole video just on it because it is cool. But if we go into our Cleric here, what you'll see is at level 20, they get an epic boon. However, if we go down to that epic boon, like the heroic boon, there was 2 choices, but with the epic boon, there's only 1 choice. So why call it epic boon? Why not just say you get Divine Herald at level 20? Well, it's because they said yesterday during KoboldCon that they did this intentionally, which tells me they're going to be releasing some expansions with other options for the base classes. They're going to say, here's new epic boons for base classes. Here's new heroic boons for base classes. So I'm kind of excited about this. I like that. I can't wait to see what they're going to do with it, because that's that's really cool. To be able to have a choice of your class milestone cap ability will be really, really neat. There are some things I was like, I would have done this different. In fact, I've even made some of my own versions of classes that are a mashup of 5th edition and TOV, because I was like, I like this better in 5th edition. For instance, I like that the Barbarian gets a 10-minute rage and can continue their rage by bonus actioning every round. That was something that 5th edition is doing in their UA, and that was not in here. I put that in mine. So yeah, I think there are some things where I think maybe 1D&D has a little edge, but I think overall I like TOV better than what I'm seeing in 1D&D. So if you're a 5th edition player and you're like, oh yeah, 1D&D is cool and I'm looking forward to it, I would suggest looking at TOV, because I really think overall they did a better job on capturing some stuff that I really liked. And it's very easy to mix and match these 2 systems because they are essentially the same system at the core. but I just give TOV the edge here. That's all. So take a look. I think it's worth taking a look at. Overall, I love it. Are there things I would and am changing about it? Absolutely. But I do that with 5th edition. So why wouldn't I do that with Tales of the Valiant, right? So anyways, take a look. Kobold Con is going on all weekend long. Videos are up online already from yesterday's events. It was a ton of fun to watch the panels, watch them play. The trivia was fun. I even won a prize during trivia. I was really, really excited because I am getting my own copy of Return to Castle Shadowcrag for 5th edition, which is a very rare book, and I was super excited to win that. More stuff going on today. More prizes are going to be given out. It is going to be a really, really fun weekend. They have play going on. So if you go to koboldpress.com, you can click on the Kobold Con. There are games you can sign up for all weekend long. Go play some Tales of the Valiant games and make sure you're checking out the videos. Win some prizes. I think they're going to be giving away more of those Castle Shadow Crags. I can't believe they had those hiding, and I never got one before. I'm a little sour about that. But I want a free copy. I'm not going to complain. I know the Kobolds are going to be at Gen Con this year, so if you did buy Tales of the Valiant, do what I'm doing, bring your book and get it signed. I'm kind of excited about that. All right, I guess that's it for today, guys. I plan on making a comeback. I want to do more videos. I have so many products I want to review, as well as just things I've been working on and doing and changing over the last year that I'm excited to show you guys. So yeah, stick around, like, subscribe to the channel, do all those cool things, because the GM Toolbox is back. I will talk to you later, and until next time, roll those dice.